Saquon Barkley continues to fall while Chase Brown, Bucky Irving, and Quinshon Judkins rise into our top 10 ranks. We dig into our full Week 14 running back fantasy rankings on today's episode of Locked On Fantasy Football.
You are Locked On Fantasy, your daily NFL fantasy podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome to Locked On Fantasy Football, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, now the number one sports podcasting network. I am one of your co-hosts, Michelle Magdziuk, and when I'm not doing this, I'm a researcher and fantasy analyst with NFL Network.
And I'm your other co-host, Vinnie Iyer. When I'm not doing this, I'm writing about NFL fantasy and betting for sportingnews.com.
Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Right now, new customers can bet just $5, and if your bet wins, you'll get $300 in bonus bets to use across the app. Today, we are getting into our running back rankings for Week 14. We already talked about our quarterback and tight end rankings on yesterday's show, if you missed that. So starting right at the top here at running backs, we have the same top six, slightly different orders. So mine goes Jahmyr Gibbs at 1, James Cook 2, Devin Achane 3, Bijan Robinson at 4, Jonathan Taylor at 5, and Chase Brown at 6. And then your top six goes James Cook at 1, Gibbs, Bijan, Jonathan Taylor, Achane, and then also with Chase Brown at 6. But the one guy I want to talk about in this group specifically is Jonathan Taylor, because he started off, just an absolute beast. But in 3 out of the last 4 weeks, it's been pretty disappointing for him. Hasn't gotten into the end zone in those games. And, does he bounce back? And it's a pretty tough matchup against the Jaguars, allowing the 4th fewest points per game to running backs this season.
Yeah, it seems like every defense has come in since the past few weeks to say we're going to stop Jonathan Taylor and make Daniel Jones beat us. Now, it's worked out pretty well. The Colts have cooled off. If you cut off the running game, that really affects a lot of things they do offensively with Jones, the play action throwing downfield, getting their intermediate receivers involved. So we'll see. I look at the Jaguars. They've been very tough against the run, but they haven't faced a lot of great running backs of late either. So I think the one thing you look at is they need to get Taylor going. This is a game they need to win here. They're going to lose the division all of a sudden. They were cruising maybe to the number 1 seed. But Jonathan Taylor has got to be a point of emphasis this week with that offensive line get him going, because you don't really want to expose Daniel Jones too much to a pretty good pass rush with Josh Hines-Allen. So I think fundamentally the game plan, they need to get Taylor going to win the game. And these are things that are important this time of year. He has a good history against the Jaguars, typically a good history against all the AFC South teams. And look, a lot of his stuff, he dominated the Titans early in the season. He got the Raiders. There were a lot of favorable matchups where he absolutely crushed, right? They've got a little bit tougher the past several weeks. This one is tough, but I think he'll get it done. Unfortunately, they don't find a way to get him going, right? If they shut down the run, they're pretty much, okay, we're going to throw to our receivers and Tyler Warren and not throw as much to Taylor. I think they need to get him involved in the passing game a little bit more so he doesn't just drop off a cliff here where if you can't get the rushing yards, you can still get him involved in the passing game. And I think that could develop in this game as well.
Yeah, this is a huge game for the Colts. They need to really be leaning on Jonathan Taylor. So we both expect him to have a solid game. Now, Chase Brown, I mentioned, is both of our running backs 6 this week against the Bills. Both of these running backs should have a good game. You have James Cook at 1. I have him at 2. Great matchup for these guys. The Bills, 4th most points per game allowed to running backs. And what's key here is they allow a ton of rushing touchdowns to running backs, the most in the league at 15. And that's like the one area where we need more out of Chase Brown. He's performing. He's been consistently putting up 14, 15 points in half PPR. Like, that's a good RB2. But for him to get into the RB1 range, we need him to start scoring touchdowns because there has been no touchdowns for him over the last month. Hopefully he can get some here, and that's why we have him so high. And then right after him, you have Quinshon Judkins at running back 7 in another nice matchup against the Titans. I have a little bit lower at running back 11, but I still have Judkins as a running back 1 as well.
Yeah, with Chase Brown, he's been very effective. It wasn't just with the Joe Burrow return last week. I was surprised what he did. He was running well, hard. I think we look at him as a guy that's a receiving back that's a little bit smaller, but he's also a tough back. I don't know why they bothered in some situations with Samaje Perine. He came in and fumbled and gave the Ravens a little bit of hope in the previous game on Thanksgiving. So I just don't get it. Just feed Brown. And he's proved he can be tough. He can handle the workload. He can get going. He's going to be the ticket for them to upset the Bills. They need that running game going because, again, everyone's focused on James Cook, and he should be in a good spot to, of course, run over the Bengals, but he does that to every team. Chase Brown is going to be pretty key to open everything up here. We'll see about T. Higgins in the practice window. Does he get back on the field to help the passing game? That would be nice as well to create some coverage, attention downfield, open up the running game a little bit more. But Chase Brown, I love it to smash. And look, there's not many instances where the Browns are favored and they're playing for the head, but this is a lot like the Raiders game just a couple weeks ago, except this one is at home. And we know the Browns defense can dominate. It's a good correlation to play Judkins. So I would expect Judkins and Brown to be in a lot of DFS lineups this week based on their value.
Yeah, and I think another guy that should be there is Bucky Irving, who I have at running back 7. You have him right there at 8. And, last week he comes back after a long absence, and we thought, okay, Sean Tucker's been getting involved and doing his thing. Rashad White's been getting reception. So we didn't know what workload he would get, but instantly comes back. It's 17 carries right away, gets a touchdown, a little bit involved in the passing game as well, scores 15 points in half PPR. Like, you'll take that his first game back. And honestly, throughout the year, the 5 games he has played, he's been a consistently good RB2, low-end RB1, but we both like him in this matchup against the Saints this week. The Bucs should be playing ahead. It should be a nice game for Irving.
Yeah, they should be in total control of this one. They didn't really need even Baker Mayfield or really the offense in the first matchup there with the defense taking care of the main scoring of that. I don't think the Saints can be all that competitive in this game. Another look, if you're doing a stack here, correlated with Tampa Bay's defense and Bucky Irving, much like the Browns and Quinshon this week that you can look at. So I do like Bucky Irving quite a bit. They also have their passing game reinforcements on their way. Mike Evans and Jalen McMillan are not going to probably be in action yet. Chris Godwin just returned. But the passing game is going through some snags here with Baker Mayfield. They need to lean a lot more on the run here with Irving. Again, Irving should get a ton of work here. There's no way the Saints are going to be all that competitive in this game. I think it could be a big finish, Michelle, for Bucky Irving because you have the Falcons and the Panthers and just some really bad division game opponents that they can just totally exploit here. So Bucky Irving might win a lot of championships. Definitely is going to help you surge into the playoffs if you play him this week.
Yeah, it's been nice to have him back. Now, my number 8 is Josh Jacobs with Derrick Henry at 9. You're pretty close with me on those. You have Josh Jacobs at 9 and Derrick Henry at 11. But my running back 10 this week is Breece Hall against the Dolphins, and you have him quite a bit lower than me at running back 17. The Dolphins aren't like a defense you need to stay away from in the run game. They're middle of the pack. Earlier in the year, they were like a team you were definitely trying to play your guys against. They've gotten a little bit better, but Breece Hall has been relatively consistent, I'll say. Over the last 5 games, 32 points, 19-7. So that was his bad game against the Patriots, though, in New England. That's a super tough matchup. And then 12 points and then 15 points last week against the Falcons. He's getting the workload that we've been wanting him to get for a long time now with all the injuries. So I think Breece Hall gets to work again in this game. The Jets should be able to stay in it. I don't expect the Dolphins to beat up on the Jets. So Breece Hall, I just think the workload's going to be too much and to put him much lower than 10.
Yeah, with our quarterback show, we said it was not a good week for streaming quarterbacks. I think it's a fantastic week for a lot of the running backs this week. So it's hard to crack the top 10 with this group, especially with Bucky Irving back, Judkins and Brown having their big matchups here. Look, even Derrick Henry has a chance to get going in this one. But I think when you look at this overall, Breece Hall is pretty reliable. He just doesn't have that ceiling he once had, maybe just because the Jets' offense is limited. He can't explode into those games that we saw as a rookie, younger back here. So that's my only concern. Dolphins have been improved defensively. I thought he was going to have a bigger game last week. He did get the touchdown off the special teams miscue that helped against the Falcons, but otherwise it would have been a little bit disappointing in that game. So I'm just tempering my expectations, but he's firmly a high upside RB2 every week.
Yep, absolutely. And then your running back 10 to close out the top 10 here is Kyren Williams. I am just slightly lower at running back 13. There's some reports that his workload could be limited a little bit heading into the playoffs to keep him healthy, but he's still too good to sit. It's a good matchup. So you're going to continue playing him. Now, My running back 11, I already mentioned, was Judkins, but then I have RJ Harvey at 12, and we'll get to RJ Harvey, how we feel about him in this matchup, and then the rest of our running back rankings right after a quick break. The holidays are officially here, which means gift hunting season is on. And if you want something meaningful, personal, and guaranteed to get a reaction, Aura Frames is the gift that delivers every time. It's not just something you wrap, it's a way to share memories, because Aura isn't your average picture frame. You can preload the frames with photos before gifting it. So when they plug it in, the memories are already there. No apps to figure out, no setup headaches, just instant smiles. You can upload endless amounts of pictures and even 30-second videos. It is the perfect gift for grandparents, parents, newlyweds, anyone who loves photos. It's really a holiday gift that actually gets used, not forgotten in a drawer. For a limited time, save on the perfect gift by visiting auraframes.com to get $35 off Aura's best-selling Carver matte frames, named #1 by Wirecutter, by using promo code LOCKEDON at checkout. That's AURA frames.com, promo code LOCKEDON. This deal is exclusive to listeners, and frames sell out fast. So order yours now to get it in time for the holidays. Support the show by mentioning us at checkout, please. Terms and conditions do apply. All right, continuing our running back rankings for week 14, I have RJ Harvey at running back 12. It is risky because the efficiency is not there for him whatsoever on the ground. Like, he looks like a pretty bad runner overall, but the workload was there last week. He was getting the receptions, and he gets a nice matchup against the Raiders, who just got beat up by Kamani Vidal last week. So if Kamani Vidal can do it, I'm hoping RJ Harvey, with the workload he's getting, and he should get the goal line opportunities again, which he got 2 rushing touchdowns last week. I feel safe about playing him this week in this matchup.
Yeah, I've just been a bit confused on the way they use RJ Harvey. It was very limited before while J.K. Dobbins was healthy. Now that he's not healthy, what are they going to do, right? They have Tyler Bidet. They got just Jaleel McLaughlin, who's still tiny and still can't power through anything. So RJ Harvey is a pretty tough runner. He's compact. He's strong. I really liked him coming out of college. I thought his role would be bigger, but they kind of eased him in. And maybe we're seeing, even with the Broncos have pretty good blocking overall, we're seeing that maybe it wasn't a Javonte Williams problem. Maybe just the whole design and efficiency of this running game is not very good, because you see Javonte Williams and what he's doing with the Cowboys. He's kind of unleashed here with his knees working out fine. Now with Harvey, again, yeah, he's a volume-based play, but the volume should be there against the Raiders. It was there last week in key spots against the Commanders. So again, it's kind of helpful, right, that you don't have Dobbins. You don't have to worry about it. You know where the touches are going to go. And you can be pretty hopeful that he's going to have a good game. So I'm at 15. You have him at 12. I think he's just, plug and play. Forget about it. Like, he's going to have a good game. And we used to stress about this Denver backfield, but now we don't have to do that as much in a weird way without Dobbins.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, number 12 through 14 for you goes, through 15 goes Javonte Williams at 12. I'm similar there at 15 for him. Jalen Warren at 13. We'll get to him later because I'm much lower. Ashton Jeanty at 14. I have Jeanty at 17, so similar. RJ Harvey at 15. And then my 14 is Saquon Barkley, which we don't get to Barkley for a little bit longer on your list at number 18. Now, maybe he deserves to even fall further than this. I don't know, but every week he keeps falling down our rankings. We officially knocked him out of the top 12. This is a tougher matchup for him against the Chargers, allowing the 12th fewest points per game to running backs, and he's not getting it done. He's not scoring touchdowns. He's not involved in the passing game, and the efficiency on the ground just isn't there with the offensive line. So lots of things to worry about with Barkley.
Yeah, I think they're going to have to put it up in the air just going forward. I've talked about this a lot. The Eagles just need to be more aggressive throwing the ball, and they got to come out doing it early, and then you might have Saquon Barkley have some success in the second half going into the fourth quarter if they can play with a lead. But the problem is they've always been even or tight, or we had that Cowboys game where we thought they were going to blow them out, and they gave up the big comeback to Dallas. So there's a lot of concerns, and look at these guys ahead of him that I have. Javonte Williams, he gets that matchup Thursday against the Lions. Ashton Jeanty, the Broncos, look, are vulnerable. They're not all that scary in terms of the run defense. They're very tough to pass on, but we saw the Commanders and Chris Rodriguez had a game there. Warren we'll talk about a little bit more, but he's looked better of late. He's been a lot more productive than Saquon Barkley overall. So, again, take the name off the back. Start looking at the players that you're going to trust the most. I mean, we didn't know that R.J. Harvey is going to have a prominent role at this point of the season, but that's what's materialized, right? And then you have Judkins being so consistent, leading that backfield. All these guys on the rise. I mean, they're just more appealing than Barkley in a tougher matchup. Now, you're probably stuck starting him, right? He's a high draft pick. That's been the rub with him, but I would just temper my expectations, hope that he gets involved in the passing game, and hope that he can score a touchdown.
Now, Amarian Hampton, if he returns for the Chargers, we both have him at 16 against the Eagles. Now, the Eagles just got walloped by the Bears running backs last week. And now on the season, a big part of that due to that game last week, they've allowed the 8th most points per game to running back. So we like Hampton. My only worry now is that Vidal has been successful for a good chunk of this time while Hampton's been out. Does he steal more work than we want him to, right? Do they ease in Hampton? So that's the only reason I don't have him top 12 coming back. I just want to see his workload first before putting him up that high. But if he's back into my lineups.
Yeah, and there could be a situation, right, with the state of Justin Herbert's hand and just the concerns about the passing game, the Eagles' pass defense. Do they just go run heavy in this one, and do they just say, oh, we've got Hampton and Vidal. We just saw what Swift and Monangai did against the Eagles. Let's try this. I mean, we can power them a little bit. They also have offensive line issues in terms of pass protection, right? So it would make a lot of sense. Two things: the Chargers to be run heavy, the Eagles to be pass heavy in this game. And we've seen the Chargers unleash that. They're capable of really sticking to the run when they have Greg Roman calling the plays, right? That can definitely happen here. So I think if Hampton comes back, I think Vidal might be playable as a flex. That's how I think they are going to attack the Eagles a bit. So, again, it stinks because they've been kind of about one back most of the time. But we did see Jared Patterson emerge and score a touchdown last week. So maybe they'll just say we're going to lean a lot in the running game and open it up to both of these guys. So I think they're really hoping Hampton can come back. But if Hampton's not back, Vidal should smash the spot.
Yeah, if Hampton's not back, Vidal might even be higher, right? Because it's not both of them getting the workload back there. So you'd even feel better about Vidal if that happens. Now, what do we do with these Bears running backs, right? Because they both had a great game against the Eagles last week. Monangai has been much more involved, has been scoring touchdowns pretty much every week now. Swift also got into the end zone last week. It was Monangai who led the backfield in carries. Do you feel good about playing both of them? Are you just sticking with Swift? Like, how are you feeling going about, like, they have to go to Green Bay this week. It's not a favorable matchup, but I do think Ben Johnson will try to lean on the run game still because it's hard to pass on the Packers as well.
Yeah, I think they definitely are playable. You just might have to say they're more flex plays. They're both not going to finish. I think they probably did finish as RB1s last week. I didn't totally check it, but with their production, I would assume they were pretty high up there, borderline RB2. So you just drop them a little bit, but that gives you multiple Bears backs you can play this week. I think really the question is, does Monangai get the touchdowns? Does Swift get the catches? All that kind of stuff to add up to your scoring system, right? If it's half or full PPR, you might be leaning a little bit better about Swift. If it's more of a standard league, you might be feeling Monangai there. So I think in half, I think they're both playable, but just keep in mind, it might be more just like the high-end flex versus, for sure, a top running back, because they're just not going to gash the Packers the way they really gash the Eagles. Really, they're not going to do that to any team this season when you have that many yards. So keep that in mind. Don't chase that box score.
Yeah, and that's how we kind of have it. So last week, Swift finishes the running back 2 on the week, and Monangai the running back 7. So we did. I mean, we have them much lower than that, right? But we still have them as solid plays. I have Swift at 19, Monangai right behind him at 20. You have Swift at 22, Monangai at 26. So like you said, lower end RB2s, flex plays. That's kind of where I like them. Travis Etienne, we're both expecting a nice bounce back week from him. I have him at 18. You have him at 21. So definitely a playable guy as well. And then we're also both pretty similar on Kenneth Walker, who you have at 20 and I have at 21 against the Falcons. You are higher, though, on Charbonnet than me at 19 against Falcons, but they should be running the ball a lot in that game. We don't expect the Falcons to be able to do much on offense. So I don't mind those rankings by you. We are going, though, to debate a little bit on Jalen Warren. I am wearing a Steelers sweatshirt right now. I have a lot of feelings about this team, but Jalen Warren, I can't get on board with you having him ranked at running back 13. I'm much, much lower. We will debate about that and get into the rest of our running back rankings right after a quick break.
All right, this episode of Locked On Fantasy Football is brought to you by FanDuel Sportsbook, and NFL Sundays move fast. One big play and suddenly everything feels different. That's what makes live betting with FanDuel so exciting. You're not just watching the game, you're reacting to it in real time. With FanDuel, you can place bets as the action unfolds. Every drive, every momentum swing, every highlight moment. One underdog I like to come through this week, the Steelers. That's who Michelle just was worried about, but she shouldn't be, because I think they're in a good spot to beat the Ravens this week, and the game's in Baltimore. The Steelers, however, are more likely to rebound than the way the Ravens are playing right now. So that's the underdog I like this week. You can check out all the lines and the teams that are not favored at FanDuel and see where you want to go this week. Live betting is best when the game starts to shift, receiver gets hot, defense tightens up, and the momentum flips after turnover. You can bet next touchdown scores, drive results, totals, and more. It keeps you locked into every snap, every drive, every possibility. So if you want to be right in the middle of the action this season, visit FanDuel.com and place your live bets all season long. FanDuel, the game moves fast, and so can you. All right, Michelle, we just talked a little bit about the Steelers in that promo. Now, tell me why you're worried about Jalen Warren. Don't be. I think he's going to be good. I know the Ravens, on paper, feel like a tricky matchup because you just say that name, Baltimore. But Chase Brown scoffed at that. He came through with a big game. So why are you down on Warren this week?
He just, the efficiency is not there for him on the ground. He all of a sudden is not getting very much in the air either. I mean, he has 14 total receiving yards over the last 3 games combined. 14, 5, 0, and 9. So no longer is involved in this receiving game. He only has 10 carries in 2 of the last 3 games. He has to score that touchdown to even get you double-digit points. I mean, it's been 10 points, 7 points, 13 points, 11 points over the last month. And the last 2 weeks with those 12 points and 11 points, he had to score a touchdown in both of those games to get to those numbers. So I have him as a playable guy, running back 24, but I can't put him up towards the top of my RB2s. I'm not excited to play him. I just think you can play him if you need to.
Yeah, there's one thing that made me feel a little bit better about Jalen Warren in this game. And it was Aaron Rodgers being absolutely angry at his wide receivers. They've been atrocious, right? It's time to get Warren back going in the passing game. I mean, he's a weapon. You get him out in the open field. They need to manufacture something in the passing game. So I think they're going to look at that. It's kind of wrong, right? You think about that. He was such a good receiver for this team last year. And then you bring in a complimentary back. I think they thought Caleb Johnson would be the power back. He disappointed. So now they're kind of using Kenneth Gainwell as kind of that guy, right? Because he's a change of pace. He's a pretty good receiver. So maybe things flipped on its head a little bit with their usage just based on what they learned about Caleb Johnson not being very good, at least as a rookie, right? So all that's into play, but I think you can run on the Ravens. I do like the Steelers to win this game. I just don't trust the Ravens anymore to do anything. Like, as much as I'm worried about the Steelers, I'm worried about the Ravens more. And they're just not that defense that you're like, ugh, we're scared to play anyone. Look, the Steelers have to be all about the running game, throwing to Warren if they're going to win this game. And I think that's what will materialize a little bit. And I think he has a good day, and I think he will score at least 1 touchdown in this game.
He's going to need to come through. I mean, I hope he does. I hope he does well as a Steelers fan. Now, one guy I do have higher than him, which might be a surprise, is Devin, Neal, the rookie for the Saints. I have him at running back 22 against the Buccaneers. You have him at running back 29. I get it. Last week, disappointment for sure. Didn't do really anything against those Dolphins. Scored 9.9 points, and that was in full PPR, right? And I do prefer him in a full PPR, but I think half PPR is fine as well. If it's standard, I probably will be off of him because the Saints just do not give their running backs opportunities to score because they're never in scoring position. But what was promising to me last week is that he got 17 touches in the game. No other running back on the team had more than 5. And really, Evan Hall was the only other running back to get any touches for the Saints. It was 5 carries, no receptions. Neal saw 14 carries, 3 receptions. He played 81.4% of the snaps. He was one of 6 running backs to play at least 80% of snaps last week. The others were Jonathan Taylor, Ashton Jeanty, Saquon Barkley, Breece Hall, and Bijan Robinson. So the Saints were utilizing him, and he was out there all the time. And this is a nice matchup this is even nicer for him than it was last week against the Dolphins. Like I said, the Dolphins have gotten a little bit better at their run game. The Buccaneers, though, allowing the 7th most points per game to running backs this season. I think Devin Neal can get it done through the air. And if he could even sneak into the end zone one time, he could end up being in the teens here, I think, this week. So I like Devin Neal.
Yeah, I'm just a little bit worried. Like, I had to watch that performance, some of it last week. It's so painful to see the Saints try to move forward with their offense. They just don't have a lot at this stage of the season. I mean, you have nothing. You got your receivers are down to Chris Olave and Juwan Johnson that you can really trust. You've got Neal. The Bucs did obliterate them in the first matchup, so I'm a little concerned about that. I don't see a lot of rushing success at all for Neal, so it's all dependent on the receiving. And like you said, it's very hard to perceive any kind of scoring with this in general with the Saints. Like, scoring is just inept at this point. They're much like the Vikings offense, where you're not quite sure if they're going to score points in a given game. Like, it kind of has to happen. So I can't be too high on them this week. I think I'm off anything of the Saints trying to extract anything. I mean, it was a grind for Alvin Kamara. So I think he's a borderline flex play if you need him. I have him at 29. So again, but I think, like you said, I think if you're in more PPR leaning leagues, you can do that because you can get those cheapo points on the checkdowns a little bit better than you can if you're in half or full.
Now, I have some questions for you and guys that will be in the same matchups to each other and are in similar range for us. So would you rather start Jordan Mason against the Commanders or Chris Rodriguez against the Vikings in that same game, assuming Aaron Jones misses the game, right? If Aaron Jones doesn't miss the game, then you'd probably have to go Rodriguez here. But if Aaron Jones misses the game, it's Jordan Mason, correct? Like, the matchup is so nice against the Commanders, and at least you would know Mason would get all the workload while Rodriguez would still be splitting with 2 other guys.
Yeah, I feel a lot better about Jordan Mason in general. I mean, when he's had the opportunity to hand the backfield to himself, it's been rather productive, especially in a decent matchup, and the Commanders are that matchup here. It's definitely really nice for him. It's pretty good for Chris Rodriguez on the other side. Now, it really might come down to where we are with the quarterback. I hate to say J.J. McCarthy is almost needed. This is terrible, but it's true. Like, you put in Max Brosmer, there's going to be less chances to move the ball. We've already seen one horrible game. So we need McCarthy back from the concussion, at least to facilitate a little bit the running game, a little bit more than Brosmer. So I hate to say that, but that's in play. Well, there's some upside that Jane Daniels should return for the Commanders this week. I mean, in terms of, this is it. They're actually still mathematically alive to win the NFC East. So this is it for Jane Daniels if he's going to make a run here. I'm not saying they will, but yeah, to me, it's easily Mason and Rodriguez, even when you have those other variables in play.
Now, what about Kareem Hunt against the Texans or Woody Marks against the Chiefs? Both tougher defenses. Hunt had a down week in week 13 against the Cowboys, which was disappointing, but he was very consistent up until that point for like the last month. With Woody Marks, he's getting a lot of work, like 18 carries, 16 carries, 19 carries the last 3 games, but fantasy points are not coming to him whatsoever. Touchdowns aren't there, receptions aren't there. So it's scary to start Woody Marks right now. I think I'm still leaning the Kareem Hunt side.
Yeah, Kareem Hunt is still going to get the high leverage touches for this team. They just didn't have a lot of those last week, and they were having to throw a lot of the Cowboys, what teams tend to do. So I think it'll be more of that grinding type game that the Chiefs typically do well in, and Hunt, that's the type of game that Hunt would score in more so than the receivers. So he has a better chance to score in general, I think, than Woody Marks. We've seen Nick Chubb still being involved in the red zone and stealing the work there. So I actually think Chubb and Marks are hard to play based on their split usage. Marks not producing like you would with that volume, and then Chubb stealing the pay dirt in certain situations. So I think we reluctantly it's Hunt over Chubb and Marks, but I'm going to downplay Hunt into a running back 3/flex this week.
Yeah, it's interesting because would you rather go with David Montgomery over all of those guys we just talked about? Rodriguez, Hunt,
Yes.
Woody Marks, Jordan Mason even? Or would that be your line?
No, David Montgomery, look, there's going to be scoring on Thursday night. So somehow they're going to run the ball in. They're going to do something here. They also don't have two key red zone components there in St. Brown and Laporta, so they're probably going to be more willing to run the ball with Gibbs and Montgomery near the goal line. The Cowboys, look, typically stink. We thought Kareem Hunt was going to have a better game. They're better up front, but you can still run to the Cowboys, and if there's a lot of points, that means who has a better chance of scoring? I think it's Montgomery, though, those other guys, but it's pretty close. Jordan Mason, Dave Montgomery, I do like them a lot more than Rodriguez, Hunt, Neal, and Chubb/Marks this week.
Yeah, I agree with everything you just said there besides the Neal part. I don't know. I'm getting on Neal's bandwagon. We're probably going to hear about him a bunch on Friday in our sleeper show in DFS. But that will be it for today's episode. I want to thank you all for making Locked On Fantasy Football your first listen of the day. For your second listen, get a double dose of the Locked On NFL podcast. Tyler, the Man Roland, gives you a shot of espresso to start your football day while Tony Wiggins takes you into the barbershop for the smoothest breakdowns to end the day. I am on the Thursday morning podcast with Tyler, so go listen to that tomorrow. Find Locked On NFL on YouTube or wherever you listen to podcasts. We will be back with you tomorrow to finish up our positional rankings with wide receivers. We'll talk to you then. Bye, y'all.